A lot of you guys have been commenting for me to dive into the topic of intermittent fasting, and there has been a lot of buzz in the fitness community surrounding IF and its fat loss and muscle gain benefits. In fact, you can find examples of people getting great results with IF everywhere, from testimonials of fitness professionals, movie stars, and of course, the people you follow on social media. So after trying it out for a few months and doing a lot of research, I'm finally ready to review and share with you guys my results. But first off, what is intermittent fasting? Well, for those of you who are not familiar with IF, there are several different variations, but all of them revolve around the premise of strictly eating inside certain eating windows and not eating anything at all during your fasting window. However, water, no-calorie drinks, and BCAAs are allowed and are usually recommended during fasting, as they will not affect the fasting window or break your fast. But if you really think about it, technically, each and every one of us is already following a version of IF because we're not eating at night while we're asleep. Well, unless you tend to sleepwalk to the kitchen and then sleep snack, which if you do, set up a camera because I want to see that. But for everyone else, we're fasting for about 8 to 10 hours a night while we sleep. However, the most common IF variation is the 8 to 16 model. That simply means that you consume all of your calories inside an 8-hour window, and then you fast for the remaining 16 hours of the day. Now, this is not very extreme, since many of us are already accidentally following it by sometimes skipping breakfast and not eating late at night, so it's not too far from reality. But if we deviate from the 8 to 16 model, there are other variations such as the 6 to 18 and the 4 to 20 model, which are a bit more extreme. And then there are even certain variations of intermittent fasting where you don't consume any food for 24, 36, or 48 hours. I mean, I think I would die if I had to do that. But the latter, of course, is more of a cleansing and detoxifying tool used like once every 6 months or so, rather than like a viable diet plan. So, if an 8 to 10 hour fasting window is what's natural and normal for the majority of us, why extend this window to 16 or 18 hours? Well, here's the science behind it. Now, the reality of the situation is that intermittent fasting has not been thoroughly studied and not definitively proven to work in any way. But the preliminary trials suggest that by cutting or eliminating calorie intake for a period of time, or fasting, this causes your body to dramatically deplete its glycogen stores. This in turn directs the body towards using stored fat as its primary source of energy, resulting in reduction of intramuscular fat stores and fat loss in general. This is also very similar to the thoughts behind fasted cardio. But all right, if this is how intermittent fasting promotes fat loss, what about muscle gains? Well, with a reduction in fat on your muscle tissue, your muscle cells become more sensitive and responsive to insulin. And insulin is a powerful anabolic hormone that promotes protein synthesis, thus increasing muscle mass. In short, this means that when you reach your eating window, your body's ability to take in all of those important nutrients is significantly enhanced, causing your muscles to grow. Another common claim is that during a long period of not eating or fasting, human growth hormone is considerably boosted, causing more protein synthesis and more fat loss. And with that being said, intermittent fasting does seem like a powerful combination, creating a snowball effect where your body loses fat, causing it to become more sensitive to insulin, which helps you grow more muscle, which in turn increases your metabolism, resulting in more fat loss, and so on. So let's quickly recap the intermittent fasting benefits. Well, to summarize, the alleged claims of intermittent fasting are improved insulin sensitivity, boosted HGH production, enhanced fat loss and muscle building, improved oxidative blood markers, improved brain function and focus, improved overall health, and prolonged life expectancy with less chances for chronic diseases like diabetes, cancer, or heart disease, etc. But before we move on to the actual review of these claims, and I deliver my final verdict, let's first examine a major concern most people have with intermittent fasting, which is muscle breakdown during the fasted state. If you've been watching my channel for a while now, then you know that muscle loss does not occur that easily. It's not like if you don't eat food for 16 hours, you'll all of a sudden burn through all your muscle mass. Your body is much smarter than that, guys. Your total amount of muscle is always the result of the equation muscle synthesis minus muscle breakdown. Both processes happen 24/7, and there's not much you can do to considerably influence them. Of course, major lifestyle changes such as prolonged eating on an extreme calorie deficit will likely increase the occurring muscle breakdown, whereas consistent weightlifting will likely increase overall muscle synthesis, leading to more muscle mass. So to answer the question of whether or not intermittent fasting will cause muscle loss, the short answer is no, because meal frequency is not nearly as important as overall calorie intake. If you look at the big picture week after week, you're getting the same amount of calories and the same amount of protein. You're just changing the timing of nutrient delivery. Intermittent fasting is not a new diet with different food. It's the same food with a different diet schedule. But if you're still not convinced or need some peace of mind during your fasting window, just supplement with some BCAAs like BSN's Amino X, and that will pretty much eliminate any muscle loss risk or concern that you might have. Now, the problem with intermittent fasting is that if you look at all the research and studies, they all have a lot to do with caloric restriction. So, while the subjects are indeed on an intermittent fasting eating plan, they're also on a caloric deficit, which is very different from what we do as bodybuilders, and I will link to those studies in my pinned comment section below. Now, of course, you're going to lose weight if you eat less food, right, guys? Nothing new here. In fact, this is why intermittent fasting works so well. It restricts you from eating the majority of the time. So you will not be able to eat as much as you normally would within your normal eating window, which was basically any time you weren't asleep. Now you're limited. And of course, if you lose weight, your insulin sensitivity will likely improve, leading to more muscle gains. Again, nothing new here, guys. Personally, I would be far more interested to see a study where they compare a standard caloric deficit diet with an intermittent fasting calorie deficit diet, both with the same total calories. And of course, there aren't any because the results would be the exact same. Now, having said that though, intermittent fasting subjects might be more successful, as I stated before, because it would be difficult for most people to consume 2,000 or 3,000 calories within a 4 to 6 hour window, which could induce more fat loss because they can't hit that calorie goal. They'll be in a deficit. As for the improved blood markers and less oxidative stress intermittent fasting can lead to, again, it's all a matter of perspective, guys, and that's the key word, perspective. Eating less food overall usually means eating less junk food as well, which will positively affect your health. Again, nothing new here, and I think that's why some people go nuts for intermittent fasting. If you're eating crap, and then you all of a sudden clean up your diet, any type of meal schedule or diet that you now pick up that's clean will work because the main deterrent, which is the junk food, is now gone. But what about brain function though? Because that comes up a lot as well. Well, we know that our brain's main fuel source is glucose, which is essentially carbs. So yes, guys, the brain can use ketones as well, but let's save the ketogenic diet for another day. Now, we need carbs to function, think, and move, and in my opinion, being in a carb-deprived state in the morning will not help improve your alertness or awareness. Instead, it will most likely cause dizziness and maybe some loss of performance. And lastly, the Hgh Boost, which everybody talks about. Guys, the teeny tiny increase of HGH you may experience will simply do nothing for your fat loss or muscle gain endeavors. Elite bodybuilders and athletes inject 2, 3, or 4 times more HGH than their body's natural potential can produce, plus all other kinds of anabolic substances, but we won't get into that, in order to get extreme results from increased HGH levels. So why would you think that as a natural lifter, a 5 to 10% HGH boost would give you any kind of drastic results in terms of muscle growth? The answer is that it doesn't make any sense. Again, however, If you had a bad diet and suddenly cleaned it up, it might look like the results are drastic. But at the end of the day, I mean, you can't out-train a bad diet. So if all of a sudden you're eating clean and you were eating junk, you will see results no matter what time you eat the food. But in all fairness, all we proved so far is that intermittent fasting may or may not work. If you already started using it and are having success with it, then who am I to argue with you? Keep doing what works for you. And if this diet plan helps you stay on the right track, then it's suitable for you. My main problem with intermittent fasting is that for me, it's not a long-term viable solution, but more or less, it's a short-term fat loss tool. In fact, I just want to interject something here. You know, we're all about lean gains on this channel. So if you were bulking properly in the first place, you wouldn't have any need for any short-term fat loss tool. And with that being said, it could work if you use it for maybe like 2 to 3 months to shred some fat before a contest or before summer, but I just don't think it's a diet that you can follow forever. For the majority of you, it's not going to be sustainable eating 6 hours a day for the rest of your life. And let's be honest here, I don't just care about getting you guys to look good and shredded, I also want to improve your quality of life by helping you adopt a healthier lifestyle. So getting on a diet schedule such as intermittent fasting will eventually mean you'll get off of it. And that's not what my advice is all about. A lot of people I know who tried intermittent fasting ended up binge eating, hating their diet, and not being able to eat consistently enough to get results. Also, if you think about it on a social level, intermittent fasting is a bit antisocial. For example, let's say your eating window is noon to 6 and you have a date at 8 o'clock at night. Are you seriously not going to eat? Just kind of like sit there, watch the person you're on a date with eat their food while you just kind of stare at them? And what about like a family dinner? Are you just going to stare at everyone else eating food? Like a family dinner is a nice time to interact with family and have fun. Now, of course, you can move your window around on certain days, but again, it's not very sustainable, and I don't believe it's worth all the hassle, at least for my lifestyle. And lastly, guys, if you're a hard gainer and are having trouble building muscle, I firmly believe intermittent fasting is not for you. And it's because if you're a hard gainer, 99% of the time, it's because you're already not eating enough food. So to think you're all of a sudden going to start shoving down 4,000, 5,000 calories in a smaller window of opportunity, it's not going to happen. If you have a hyperactive metabolism, you need to fuel that fire as often as possible and not deprive your body of calories for 16 to 20 hours straight. So to wrap this up, guys, who is intermittent fasting for and does it work? Well, I don't believe that the actual fasted state equals more results. I do believe in intermittent fasting, though, as a short-term solution, especially if you're a bit overweight to start with and want to drop down to a healthier body fat percentage. But if you're currently using intermittent fasting and feeling great with it, by all means, carry on, guys. It's something that may or may not work and has virtually no disadvantages. So why not stick with it? It all comes down to calories in versus calories out. And at the end of the day, the best diet plan is the plan that works for you. If you're seeing results with intermittent fasting, it's because the structure of the plan is one that works for your lifestyle. If you're a binge eater every night, a diet schedule like intermittent fasting will prevent these additional calories because you will not be allowed to eat at night. It's all relative to your lifestyle, guys. There's no big secret that you don't know about and everyone else does. It's just all about finding what works, again, for your lifestyle. However, I do suggest that you watch my meal plan video and use that information to construct your own meal plan and stick to those calories and macros. Then it just comes down to training consistently, following your meal plan, and getting those results. Each and every one of you has the potential to accomplish your goals and much more. You just need to be consistent. So be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions or future video suggestions, leave them down in that comment section below. And as always, guys, more good stuff coming soon. See ya.